But you can't make the student think.
Prepared. See, that's called corruption.
There's a lot the student union can do.
The guitar and the double bass, but
to have a safe or secure life.
Spring break, reading week, slack week. There are so many names to describe the wonderful break in the middle of winter semester. The life of a university student often consists of school, homework, late nights, fun times, and too little sleep. For many, add a part-time job and it pretty much sums it all up. Reading week meant but for these 5 students, Reading Week meant a movie and a trip overseas. Haley MacLeod is in studio to chat with these traveled students.
So I'm joined in the studio here with Ben Rowe, who's a student at the U of C. Steve Olsen is the academic chair of the Film and Video Production Program and Radio, Television, Broadcast News over at SAIT, as well as an instructor here at U of C. And Tila Datta is a SAIT student, and they were all involved over Reading Week, as well as leading up to that on a film project in India. Steve, maybe you could tell us a little bit about how this idea came to be. And
wow, this actually started a couple of years ago, and we had a contact in India. Umesh Gupta is a vice president of academic at one of the film schools in India, in fact actually one of the top 10 film schools in the world, Whistling Woods International. And he was looking for an opportunity to put something together in an education format that would allow the schools to work together. So this message got back to us through the Alberta government, actually. There was a representative there, and he contacted myself and David Mitchell here at the University of Calgary and said, we've got this individual who'd be interested in doing this, and over the course of a year we mapped out what we'd like to do and came up with this idea of a co-production, and then we needed to go out and recruit some students, and we did. Some great people that we were able to get a hold of, and next thing you know, we're in India shooting a movie.
Right. So Ben, for you this is part of a class, right? How did you get into that class in the first place? How did you find out you were going to be involved in this?
Well, all the students who were involved in this were taking part in the 2-in-2 program at the University of Calgary, meaning that it's a combined degree with 2 years spent at SAIT and 2 years spent at the U of C. And one of the final courses that is required for that program is Communication Studies 580. And normally what that course involves is some group work and a media project and a research paper, things that demonstrate what you've learned at SAIT and what you've learned at the university. Mm-hmm. And on our first day in that class, the 5 film program students in the class got taken aside and told, well, this year something a little different is going to be happening. You're going to be partnering up with these students from India, and you're going to be making a movie.
Great. And so, Tila, leading up to anyone coming to Calgary, anyone going to India, what did you spend that time working on, and what was your role in the project?
I was the screenwriter on the project. So most of my work was done in pre-production. Yeah, we spent a lot of the time leading up to going to India, working on the script. Mm-hmm. Almost all of that time we were working up until and also while we were in India on the script. So I had a lot of work to do there, but yeah, we definitely spent a lot.
How did you find that experience working with a team of filmmakers abroad while you were still here writing that script? What was that process like?
It was definitely challenging. I've never written something with anyone else ever before, and adding in the fact that this person was across the world from me and we run on very different time schedules made it very challenging, but it was also like coming near to the end of this project, it's become really, really rewarding as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then we had Indians visit Calgary. What was that experience like? Any observations on culture shock, anything like that occur?
Well, I mean, if they were here, probably the first thing they would tell you is the weather. Mm. They were coming from Mumbai, India, which is a city that never really drops down much lower than 25 degrees Celsius. Certainly when we were there, it was 30 to 35 degrees. So they came here in the middle of some of the coldest days of winter we got. Mm-hmm. I know that one of them got a bit of frostbite. There was certainly a lot of clothes that had to be bought all of a sudden because they just had no idea how to dress for the weather at all. Right. So that was probably their biggest real hurdle, actually, I'd say.
Right. Were there any administrative challenges of bringing students here or sending them over there?
There was. We had some glitches in passport problems on from the Mumbai side. One student that was actually with us on the video conference calls right up until 4 weeks before they were supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Couldn't get the visa pieces together, so he actually got dropped from the project and somebody else took his place who had everything in place. The logistics of travel, it's a long flight. We would all concur with that. I mean, it's, you know, a 9-hour flight and then a delay and then a 7-hour flight, and coming back it's a 16.5-hour flight and a 5-hour flight. I mean, just putting those kinds of things together, making sure that we had the accommodation and the travel. I mean, there was a lot of things that we had to work on for about a year to put this together.
Now the trip itself, what was that like? What's your favorite parts? Any
The food.
good stories?
Watching these guys, okay, if I could just put this out, this is a student project, and yet, you know, what we saw was a group of filmmakers, student filmmakers from Calgary, who were able to go toe-to-toe and be on the same level, and in some levels even better than students from one of the top 10 film schools in the world. That was, as a facilitator, as an instructor, made me immensely proud of this team to go, you know what, you guys are really literally on a worldwide level, and that was amazing. But I have to also say one of the best parts was the food.
Did you get to have any fun while you're there, or working hard the whole time?
Well, it was a very tight schedule. We worked a lot. There was a lot of time spent shooting there, so we were only there for a brief time. But we did, I mean, we got to go to the beach for a day, so that was fun. And, you know, we got some shopping and stuff in there as well, so, yeah.
Now the film industry in India, how is that similar or different to what you guys are used to working with here?
Well, I mean, the thing to understand about India is it has pretty much the only film industry in the world that can really go toe-to-toe with Hollywood in terms of money produced, in terms of films produced. There's a lot of different languages in India, and so there's sort of a different film industry for each language. Each one is putting out probably about 200 movies in that language per year. So it's a real system of, it's almost like old school Hollywood, 1940s Hollywood, when things were very much a production line, kind of factory, studio-driven thing, which makes it very different from the Canadian model of kind of indie films with smaller crews. So going to India, we were confronted with getting to play with a lot of toys, I think, that we ordinarily don't get the opportunity to use here in Canada.
Okay. What happens next? When are you expecting this to be done? Where can we see it?
Well, if all things go well, we should have the final product by mid-April, is what we're guessing. It will have a international premiere here in Calgary as part of you know, a student production. And then we will be looking over the next year at a variety of film festivals. Love to announce which ones, but we don't know right now. I mean, we've contacted a number. We've had some fantastic interest from a couple of major film festivals in Canada, I'll leave it at that, that have expressed a lot of interest in seeing this. On top of the short film that the students have produced, they're also doing a behind-the-scenes making-of documentary. And so the whole package will work out to around 45 minutes-ish when it's all done between the two projects. And so film festivals for a year, and then during that process, a reevaluation as to where we are, and if we can pull this off again, we will.
So, yeah, on that note, is this likely to happen? Is this something you're interested in repeating for
There
future
is
years?
something like this that is likely to happen. We're not sure if it will be this exact project.
Okay.
And, you know, keep in mind that, that some of the funding for this came from a research grant. And there's only so many times you can go back to that well and they're saying, well, what are you researching now that you didn't research last time? Okay. So we are looking at a couple of different models. We have some things that we're investigating, and we're hoping to have something similar to this on a yearly basis, crossing fingers.
Now, for the two students here, how will having had this experience influence what you do in the future? Is this a valuable experience, and what did you take away from it?
Well, for me, it was definitely valuable. It's kind of was one of the first films that I worked on. I'm only first year at SAIT, so I was definitely the least experienced going into this, and I'm taking away a lot of learning experiences, I think, and taking those forward into next year. And hopefully, you know, it's a good thing to have on my resume. Hopefully, it brings other opportunities and stuff.
Yeah, I think other than the obvious, you know, valuable experience of just the international kind of travel, what was really important for me with this project was I had already graduated from the SAIT program, so I had done a number of student films. I had done a number of films that were just sort of personal indie projects. So I was always sort of making films for myself. And this was a project that was coming to me from the university, coming to me from Whistling Woods, having to work for an Indian audience, Indian sensibility, and really figuring out how to make a movie that's really somebody else's kind of project, which is really the reality of the work for hire system in the Canadian film industry. So it was really valuable experience in that regard.
Okay. Do you think you'll ever do a co-production again with somewhere else?
You know, a lot of the guys who we worked with, the fellow students that we had, were just great guys, and we were shooting and saying, wow, when's the next time you guys are going to be in Canada? When's the next time you guys are going to be in India? We got to do something again, because, the co-production's a headache, but the people were great, the places were great, they were excited to be here, we were excited to be there, so it certainly opened my eyes up to sort of a whole new way of kind of looking at, ways of doing business, right?
Well, thank you so much for joining us here, and
Thank
we'll
you.
definitely look forward to seeing the product once it's all finished, and we'll be back with more Full Frontal right after this.